Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week, for the week of August 25th to the 31st, 2024. Hopefully you guys are gonna enjoy, Labor Day weekend, whether it's spending times with friends or family or going wherever you want to go for Labor Day. Hope you guys have a happy and safe Labor Day weekend and all. And we got 4 stories to cover, including reports about the situation surrounding Bungie, including one of their supposedly directors of the upcoming game Marathon and all, in some hot waters and all. A report coming out about the cancellation of Crash Bandicoot 5 and everything like that. The double Nintendo Direct and Indie World that we had this week. I want to give my take on what I did and didn't like about it. And of course, the situation surrounding Concord and the fact that the game has now, at least according to what we're hearing, has become a flop and everything. And if you're interested where I got the source of these information, links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And if there are certain parts of this video you wish to skip, timestamps will also be in the description of this video or at the beginning of the video and everything like that. But before we get started, I'd like to do what I like to call is the quick My 2 Cents. Stories that kind of caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details and everything like that. The first one has to do is that we are learning that limited run games will open pre-orders next month for Castlevania Dominus Collection. This was announced during the Nintendo Partner Direct or Indie World double direct that they did. Obviously, limited runs, some folks have issues with them, others don't. So depending on how you want to look at it, this will either be a good thing or a bad thing. We also learned that the retro-inspired game based off of Rugrats, the classic 90s Nickelodeon cartoon, has a release date. Supposedly, I think last time I checked, they're aiming for a September 10 release date. Based on what they've shown so far, it's a 2D game and that you can switch between like the NES retro style to the modern look, although supposedly they will have an NES cartridge available and everything like that. So that's something that interests you and all. Keep an eye out for when that comes out on September 10th and all. We also learned that Nintendo Japan has run out of replacement parts for the new Nintendo 3DS. So those who are hoping to repair their new Nintendo 3DS, or at least in Japan, unfortunately, it looks like you guys are out of luck. We have yet to hear any from here in the US or in Europe or anything like that. But if Japan is running out of parts to repair, the new Nintendo 3DS, then I have a feeling that there is a good chance that eventually we're going to see that here for Nintendo of America and Nintendo of Europe as well. We also learned that one of the games that was announced during the Nintendo Direct was Yakuza Kiwami, that has been announced for the Nintendo Switch. For now, it seems to be digital only, and they're aiming for $19.99, $20, and everything like that. No word on the physical version, at least at this time, and it remains to be seen if Limited Run Games or Play Asia will do anything, any physical version. But for right now, those who want to try out the Switch version, digital is the only way to go at this time. We also learned from Bandai Namco that their upcoming Tales of Grace F remaster is sort of their first step on their Tales of Series remaster project, as it seems that they're looking to remaster past Tales series and everything like that, which there's some good and bad to this to a certain degree. I'll bring that up in my part 2 when I talk about the Nintendo Direct and the Nintendo Indie World though. We also learned that basically Shinji Mikami recently spoke about Dino Crisis and all, and believes that there's not much space for Dino Crisis after the success they've seen with Capcom has seen with Monster Hunter and all. Although there has been some push from Capcom fans to see either a Dino Crisis game return and everything like that, and honestly, I really think Capcom should consider bringing Dino Crisis back. I mean, we saw a remake of Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 with the RE engine and how well that game is done. I think Dino Crisis would basically be a game that could get that kind of treatment as well. I think it could work if it's done right. It remains to be seen if Capcom will handle that, but there has been push to get those games bring Dino Crisis back and everything. We also learned that the developing team at Spider that is known to do the Greedfall series and everything are basically the management is speaking out, claiming that some of the allegations being leveled at them are false and even defamatory and everything. It basically has to do with some issues between management and the employees and everything like that. We'll see how this all plays out. I mean, management could be telling the truth, but the employees could be telling the truth at the same time. We learned that basically fans who paid up to $110 for early access for the Star Wars Outlaws, which is out now, are being asked to restart their saves. At least this is being spoke to on some of the forums like Reddit and everything like that. Personally, I would not pay $110 for early access for a game like this. I mean, it's one thing if they offer the early access for free, but $110, yeah, I'm not going to spend my money on something like that. I would rather take a wait-and-see approach than spend $110 right away and all. We also learned that basically there was a headline talking about upcoming Stalker 2, and supposedly there's a claim that runs at 25 frames per second on the Xbox Series S. However, there are other claims that that's being taken out of context, that the developers are still optimizing the game and everything like that, and the Xbox team has sort of helped out a bit here and there to make sure the game runs well on the Xbox Series S. There's a good chance, odds are, they're going to aim for like 30 frames per second on the Xbox Series S. I am curious to see how it will look and run on the Series S, though, but I mean, I do think that it can be an issue if it turns out this game runs at 25 frames per second, but I don't deny the fact it's also possible a lot of things are being taken out of content. And last but not least, there have been some conflicting reports about the game Black Myth Wukong, if I'm saying the name correctly, I apologize if I'm not, over its exclusivity and whether or not it is exclusive to the PS5 or not. There were some reports earlier that saying that there may have been some issues on bringing the game, especially to the Xbox Series S. However, there have been some reports coming out denying that, claiming that basically that this was an exclusivity deal, that Sony may have signed a deal with the developers to bring the game, have the game exclusive on the PS5 and all. And recently, Jeff Grubbs has weighed in on this as well. According to him, though, on his recent, Giant Bomb Jeff Grubbs podcast, he spoke to someone who knows and that Sony had no money marketing deal to keep Black Myth Wukong off Xbox. He speculated it's possible the PlayStation maker may have helped on development, and also points out that Game Science potentially may have prioritized the PS5 due to its large Asian audience, though. So it sounds like there's been some back and forth whether or not Sony signed an exclusive deal or anything like that, which Sony has been known to do in the past or everything like that. But still, it would be nice to hear from the developers and get their take on this matter and see if this is true or not. And in the movie and TV show, in the movie and TV show part of my 2 cent, we saw the first trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the third entry in the Paramount's Sonic movie, and judging from what they've shown so far, I will say I like what I'm seeing right now with that trailer and everything like that, though. I'm a little iffy about how Dr. Robotnik is portrayed so far. I know they were looks like they were trying to aim for, the fat Dr. Robotnik that I think most of us know, or Eggman, to be exact, but not seeing that with him. But Keanu Reeves voicing Shadow, I mean, that is kind of interesting. And I will say the tone, at least from the trailer, does give the impression that this one might be somewhat, I would say, although I could be wrong, but somewhat darker than, say, the last 2 Sonic movies. Now, time will ultimately tell. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out, but I am liking what I'm seeing. It's pretty clear they're drawing inspiration from Sonic Adventures 2. Just how much inspiration they will draw from it, on the other hand, that remains to be seen at this time. We also learned that basically Paramount is considering looking at options with Paramount Plus that involves maybe a bundle deal or anything like that, or try to take a similar approach to what Disney has done with Disney Plus and Hulu Plus and everything, to maybe like the recent bundle like Disney Plus, Hulu Plus, and Max and everything like that. No word at this time what direction they're going, but this is coming off the heels of Skydance officially buying Paramount and everything like that. So we'll see how far they go with that. And in terms of box office numbers have come in, though, apparently we've seen one has flopped, one is going straight to streaming, and one seems to be doing well. The first one, The Crow, which is supposedly a reboot or a remake of the 1994 classic film, unfortunately did not do very well at the box office and supposedly has made only $4 million in its opening week. I figured that I gave the film benefit of the doubt. I haven't seen it yet, though, but judging from what they showed in the trailer, I wasn't sure how this one was going to do, and well, obviously this one is not going to do very well indeed. I wouldn't be surprised if we see this go straight to streaming services right away and everything. Speaking of streaming services, or speaking of another film that's going there, though, apparently the Borderlands movie is officially going straight to digital and everything like that. Obviously, the Lion Case is just giving up on putting this in the theaters, given how, unfortunately, it underperformed and bombed really, really bad and everything like that. So obviously, they're giving up on that one and basically just putting it straight to digital and everything like that. We'll see how well it does digitally, but yeah, I would say after how that film performed, it's unlikely we'll ever see another entry in the Borderlands or a movie based off of Borderlands, at least for a while and all. But in one bright spot is that it does seem that the new Aliens movie, Aliens Romulus, seem to have done pretty well at the box office, though. So obviously that is good, especially after the last film. I think Aliens Covenant, if I'm saying the name correctly, didn't exactly do exactly well and everything like that. It will be very interesting to see what this means going forward with the Alien franchise. One thing about this article from StreamRant is that it points out that originally there were plans to have this go straight to Hulu and everything. So obviously they changed their opinion on that, although supposedly a TV show based off the Alien series is supposedly coming to Hulu, and it will probably be out, at least according to what they're saying, around, I think, sometime next year and all. Okay, with the Quick My 2 Cent part now done, along with the movie and TV show part of the Quick My 2 Cent, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with Concord. Now, one of the things we've seen Sony lately, or at least try to push recently, has been putting out live service games. In fact, Sony isn't the only studio. We've seen others try to push that live service, recurring user spending, that kind of crap that we've seen some of these AAA developers try to push and all. And well, let's just say Sony's have had some mixed results at best. While Helldivers 2 seems to have done very well, at least for Sony for now, there are other pushes like the factions for The Last of Us and all didn't go very well. There are some concerns with Destiny 2 at this time, and raises questions about whether it was smart for Sony to buy Bungie and everything like that and all. And there have been some reports of them wanting to basically scale down doing a lot of these so-called live service games that they were trying to push for, or at least at the time Jim Ryan was trying to push for and everything like that. Well, one of those games that have one of their live service that they pushed out, Concord, has not gone over very well with everybody, though. Especially after its reveal trailer, there were some that weren't sure about this, and well, if assuming the numbers on Steam are correct, it indicates that this one is probably going to be a flop for Sony, though, and I will admit, it does raise questions about the developers and their future, aka, I believe, the developers' firewall and everything like that. In an article from PlayStationLifestyle.net, it reads, quote, reviewers and players unanimously agree that Concord actually isn't a bad game. Its biggest downfall is comes with a price tag of $40, but fails to stand out in a sea of similar shooters, including Overwatch 2, a free-to-play game Concord is eventually inspired by, not to mention some people believe that they drew inspiration from Guardians of the Galaxy as well. Anyway, people just aren't seeing justification of spending money on the game right now. In the opening week, Concord failed to even hit 700 concurrent players on Steam, and at the time of this writing, only 142 players are in the game. Suicide Squad, which was widely managed over 10,000 concurrent users at launch, and the irony is that Concord isn't being panned. If you want more surprising comparison, flop single-player game Immortal of Avium peaked at 751 concurrent players. This is truly a disaster of epic proportion for a game that was in development for a whopping 8 years. Sony needs to come up with a plan to save Concord and fast. Now, to be clear, we don't know what the numbers are on in terms on the PlayStation side, so it might be bigger, it might be smaller, who knows? We have yet to see those numbers. But having said that, though, it wouldn't surprise me if this game initially is a flop. It will be very interesting to see how long Sony keeps the servers on for this one, but I wouldn't be surprised if the servers are turned off for Concord soon, unless Sony can somehow do a 180 and manage to make this game a success like what Square Enix did with Final Fantasy XIV. Excuse me. Unless something emerges, I'm not sure about Concord's fate. And it does raise question about some of these games that have been in development for a long time, 8 years. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous and everything like that. And it also raises questions about the developers' futures, because apparently Sony bought the studio because of what they saw with Concord, and now seeing what's going on with Concord in terms of it being out in the market right now, its future remains pretty much uncertain. And it wouldn't surprise me if some of the staff are let go, or if they shut the studio down, which would be very unfortunate though, and really sad and everything like that. But given what we're seeing with this game right now, I wouldn't be shocked if that happens at all. So overall, based off what is shown on Steam right now, it is pretty clear that that Concord probably is going to be a flop for Sony and everything like that. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2. And this one is, I want to give my take on the double direct that Nintendo did, which is a Nintendo Direct and an Indie World. So we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my 2 cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at not only the Nintendo Direct, but the Indie World that happened and everything like that. Now, there were plenty of rumors going around about the possibility of Nintendo doing a Direct and everything like that. Normally, it was usually done by September, although there's been some times that Nintendo hasn't done that. But one of the reasons that we've been hearing that rumors started to pop up was because many are believing that September or October is when Nintendo is going to start talking about their next system, the Switch 2 and the Switch successor. So the mindset was kind of like putting this out now before maybe the Switch 2 dominates the discussion and everything like that. Well, it turned out to be, some of those rumors turned out to be true, and not only did we get a Nintendo Direct, but it turned out to be a partner Direct though, but also an Indie World that lasted around 40 minutes. So we had like a double Direct here, which is certainly a first that I've seen on Nintendo, or at least as far as I'm going to tell, that Nintendo has done something like that though. And after watching the Direct and Indie World, I would say it wasn't bad in my opinion or anything like that. I still think it was a good presentation. It's just not as good as June's presentation was, at least in my book and everything like that. So I'll break it down into what I liked about this Direct and Indie World and what I didn't like, mixed or not 100% sure, excuse me, of this Direct and Indie World and everything like that. The first one I do want to talk about is that I'm glad to see that Sea of Stars, a game that I did enjoy last year, especially trying it out on Game Pass, is getting a DLC called Throes, if I'm Throes, if I'm saying that correctly. of the Watchmaker, which is certainly nice. I think Sea of Stars is a good game, so that is definitely one I would recommend folks check out, especially if you're a fan of, the old, Chrono Trigger games and everything like that. So to see this one get a DLC is certainly nice indeed. There were also several other clips that they showed, some small ones, but still ones that are definitely on my radar and all, and that would be Shovel Knight's Shovel of Hope DX, which looks like a complete edition of the first Shovel Knight game. The Plucky Squire from Devolver Digital, that one looks really neat, and that one's on my radar. And of course, Metal Slug Tactics, though. I'm very curious to see how this one is going to handle, considering Metal Slug in the past has always been, a 2D shooter and everything. So to see it go this direction in a sort of like a, in a way, kind of an Advance Wars somewhat type of approach, I'm extremely curious to see how that one is going to be when that comes out supposedly later this year. And one that that certainly caught my attention that closed out the Indie World portion was basically Pizza Tower, which, judging from what they showed on that one, that I definitely got sort of a Wario Land vibe out of it, which certainly is by no means a bad thing and everything like that. So I thought that was really neat as a way to sort of close out the Indie World part of the double direct that Nintendo did. I did like the fact that they were showing off a remake of the first Legends of Heroes Trials in the Sky. It's going to come to multiple platforms, but it's coming to the Nintendo Switch as well. Judging from what they showed so far, it looks nice, and it's definitely one I am definitely going to keep an eye out on that one. And there were some neat surprises in here, including stuff like Capcom's Fighting Collection, which had not only, Capcom versus SNK, but it also, it also has basically, like Rival School in there, to even Power Stone 1 and 2 in that collection. That certainly is a neat thing, especially for fighting fans. The Castlevania Dominus collection, which is basically the collection of the DS games, though, like Dawns of Sorrows and Portrait of Ruins, to I think there was an arcade Castlevania game in this collection as well, so which is certainly nice. As I mentioned in the quick My Two Cent, that is getting a limited run collection. Stalker Legends of the Zone Trilogy, that one, it was a bit surprising to see that one come to the Nintendo Switch. I am curious to see how that one is going to run on the Switch and everything like that. Plus, I do wonder if this opens the door to the possibility, though way too early to tell if this is going to happen, but the possibility that maybe Stalker 2 can make its way over to the Nintendo system and all that stuff. If that does happen, I mean a big if, my guess is it will probably be on the Switch successor if that does happen. Yakuza Kiwi, that was certainly a surprise announcement coming into this one, and especially considering in the past, the person in charge or the creator of the series talked about how it would never come to the Nintendo system because of, the age group and everything like that, which I think is kind of ridiculous considering there are certainly M-rated games on the Nintendo system. But to see this one finally coming over to the Switch, it does basically open the doors to the possibility that other entries could maybe one day make their way over to the Nintendo systems, although I think a lot of it will depend on how well Yakuza Kiwi does on the Switch and everything like that. And Suikoden 1 and 2, if I'm saying that name correctly, are making their way over as well to the Nintendo Switch, which is certainly nice. I do believe that the Illusion Chronicles is currently out right now. I believe that one is on the Switch, along with it being on multiple systems as well. And of course, a new Rune Factory game is also in development, Guardians of Azmuma, if I'm saying the name correctly. I do think the Rune Factory games can be fun, and this is one I would definitely keep my eyes open for this one, to be exact. As far as what I didn't like or am mixed or not 100% sure, as far as this directed Indie World goes, I would say for the Indie World part, if I had to choose which one was better, I would have to say the Partners Direct, was better than the Indie World one. While the Indie World did have some neat announcements, though, I just felt like not all of them caught my attention. There were some neat ones, just nothing really that stood out the most. Also, no Hollow Knight Silk Song. Unfortunately, that Everyone's wondering when that game's going to be seen again and everything like that, and who knows when that game will see the light of day. The other thing why I'm very mixed on is the Tales of Grace, which is getting remastered. And while I think that, on one hand, I think that's good, I'm a little bit concerned about this one, especially after what happened with the Tales of Symphonia remastered and the amount of backlash Bandai Namco got and how that port was handled poorly, especially on the Nintendo Switch and everything like that. So I have concerns about Tales of Grace to a certain degree. I'm not writing the game off at this time. We'll have to wait and see, but after how the Tales of Symphonia remaster was handled, I have concerns about Tales of Grace. And last but not least, though, before this direct happened, though, there were rumors about the possibility of Call of Duty was going to show up during this Nintendo Direct. Many speculated it would probably be some of the old Call of Duties making their way over, not the upcoming Black Ops 6. Obviously, it turned out to be not true at all. This Direct came and gone, and unfortunately, there was no Call of Duty at this time being shown. It's possible we might hear some announcement, but I'm leaning towards if Call of Duty is going to come to Nintendo systems, it's probably going to be on the Switch successor. So those hoping for a Call of Duty announcement during this Direct, obviously it didn't happen. I'm sure that might be a disappointment for some folks out there. Overall, I would say this was not a bad Direct or anything like that. It was pretty good, though. I was a little surprised of it being a double Direct and everything, but there were certainly some neat announcements nevertheless. However, when compared to June's Nintendo Direct that Nintendo did, I would say that one kind of blows this one out of the water and all. Not that I'm saying there weren't any neat announcements from this Direct, there certainly was, but I just felt like the June one, at least in my view, was better than this one, to be exact. So I would say between like a B or C for this one and everything like that. It wasn't a terrible Direct by any means. It was still a good one. Same with the Indie World, but I just felt the June Nintendo Direct that happened was, in my view, better though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3, and this one has to do with rumors of a report that came out that supposedly there were plans for a Crash Bandicoot 5, but it got canceled in favor of live service games and everything like that. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of my 2 cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Crash Bandicoot, particularly what could have been Crash Bandicoot 5 if this report is true and everything like that. Now, since then, Activision Blizzard has handled, the Crash Bandicoot series, though. They've handled stuff like Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, which was somewhat of a remake of the first, second, and third Crash Bandicoot game, to Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, which I personally did enjoy. I thought that was a good game, but supposedly it did not sell as well as Activision Blizzard hoped for. Notice this is all before Microsoft purchased Activision Blizzard and everything like that. Well, a report that seems to have come out seems to indicate that whatever plans Toys for Bot at the time had for Crash Bandicoot 5, it doesn't seem to indicate that was going to see the light of day, given the direction Activision Blizzard, the studio, the publishing company at the time that owned Toys for Bots, had sort of different ideas and everything like that. In an article from Video Game Chronicles, it reports that, quote, that according to a new report from gaming historian Linda Robertson, in terms about Crash Bandicoot 5, the game, which was in very early stage of production, was canceled following what Activision considered as mute sales for Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. Around the same time, it claims Activision shot down pitches for other sequels to single-player titles such as Tony Hawk Pro Skater. The report claims that following Toys for Bot worked on Spyro Reignited Trilogy, the company compiled, if I'm saying that correctly, a multiplayer Crash title before deciding to take the work they had done on that multiplayer title and use it to build a new single-player entry to the Crash franchise. This would eventually lead to Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. Following the release, Toys for Bob set a small group of developers to task the envisioned future of the series, a project that would refer to initially as Crash Bandicoot 5. This would have been a single-player 3D platform and a direct sequel to Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, it claims. The report contains alleged concept art and proposed story concept for the unannounced game, which include the game taking place at a school for villainous children featuring returned villains from previous games. One supposed concept even saw Crash team up with Spyro following an interdimension threat to both worlds. According to the report, Crash and Spyro were intended to be two playable characters. Last month, a former Toys for Bob artist claimed that a fifth Crash Bandicoot game was canceled at the studio. So, if assuming everything from what Liam Robinson's saying is true, that does suck, though. I really do. I think it's really unfortunate that Crash Bandicoot 5 didn't happen, mostly because of Activision Blizzard pursuing not only more live service, but putting Toys for Bob, like other studios, under the you have to do a Call of Duty game and everything like that, though. Now, a lot of this does seem to indicate that this was sort of before Activision Blizzard got purchased by Microsoft and everything like that. So post Microsoft now owning Activision Blizzard, it does wonder if Crash Bandicoot 5 will see the light of day. Not to mention, Toys for Bob has broken away from Activision Blizzard. It's not under Microsoft or anything like that. But supposedly they did sign a contract to work with Microsoft on the game and everything like that. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that a fifth Crash Bandicoot game could technically happen. I mean, it is possible, but time will ultimately tell now that Microsoft owns Activision Blizzard and Bobby Kotick is not there anymore and everything like that. So I do hope maybe one day a fifth Crash Bandicoot game would happen and all. And I also do think this team up with Spyro and Crash, I think would have been a really neat thing to see and everything like that. It's just really a shame that Activision Blizzard, under, the previous leader and everything like that, chose to pursue, live services and Call of Duty over a, a fifth Crash Bandicoot game. So overall, even if Liam Robinson is saying is correct, it is very disappointing that a fifth Crash Bandicoot game didn't happen. But with Microsoft owning Activision Blizzard now, I do hope it opens the door to maybe a fifth one actually happening one day and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to our fourth and final part, and this one has to do with some allegations being thrown at the director of Marathon over at Bungie. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part of our My Two Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at a situation surrounding Bungie, particularly with the development of their upcoming game, Marathon. Now, ever since Sony purchased Bungie, the whole idea was to get their expertise on, the whole thing surrounding live services and everything like that. But it seems to indicate that not everything has seemed to have panned out as well as I think maybe to some extent Sony had hoped for. I mean, as I mentioned before, we saw the situation with the Last of Us faction, how that got canceled and everything like that. And Destiny 2 is somewhat in sort of like, some people are complaining about the game. There are some issues here and there in terms of content and so forth. And their upcoming game, Marathon, has seemed to, let's just say, I don't know how many people are excited to play that game and everything like that. Plus, there is also reports of Sony possibly stepping in if Bungie can't clean up their act, or several, restructuring and everything like that with recent layoffs and all. Well, now a new allegation seemed to have come out, though, and Bungie has recently responded, and this had to do with an article by Jason Schreier of Bloomberg that seemed to indicate that there were, let's just say, one of the directors or the person in charge of Marathon was doing, let's say, or saying or doing inappropriate thing to the female staffers out there and everything like that. From an article from Insider Gaming, it reads that, quote, the director behind Marathon and Bungie was fired this year due to inappropriate conduct. According to Bloomberg, Chris Barrett was fired from Bungie in the spring after being accused by several female employees of inappropriate behavior. Per the report from Jason Schreier, excuse me, at least 8 female employees came forward against Barrett to the company. From there, an investigation took place. That investigation discovered that Barrett would call lower-level employees attractive while also asking them to play truth or dare. On top of that, Barrett reportedly flaunted his wealth and power within the company while hinting that he could help people advance their careers. Messages that were sent to Schreier showed requests to hang out with the women involved, as well as texts that were flirtatious. It was also said that Barrett's interaction with the women had similar patterns. Barrett would befriend women at the studios in various departments and then send them a barrage of messages that blurred the line between professional and personal, Schreier wrote. In a statement given to Bloomberg, Barrett apologized for making people feel uncomfortable while adding that that was never his intent. He said that I feel that I've always conducted myself with integrity and been respectful and supportive of my colleagues, many of whom I consider my closest friends, he said. I never understood my communication to be unwanted, and I would have never thought that they could possibly have mean anyone feel uncomfortable. If anyone have felt that way about their intent with their interaction with me, I am truly sorry. Jason Schreier said that Sony Bungie's parent company wouldn't comment on the case. However, he was given a standard response from a spokesperson saying that the company is taking all complaints of misconduct seriously. Employees at Bungie were told that Barrett was fired or why he was no longer with the company and all. So, I do want to say this isn't the only time we've heard allegations against certain employees, including female employees and, excuse me, in the past and everything like that. I'm sure some of us remember hearing about what happened with Activision Blizzard before Microsoft purchased them, and even there were some allegations of some employees saying, let's just say, certain inappropriate things with those who worked at Nintendo and so forth. So it isn't really shocking to hear about this, but it's also nevertheless something that is definitely wrong and inappropriate to see in the workplace, even in the gaming industry and everything like that. I mean, it does sound like, if what we're hearing is true, that they did the right thing firing this employee, but still, this kind of behavior, I will admit, should not be tolerated in the industry in general and everything like that. So definitely that if what Jason Schreier is saying is correct, what this employee did was absolutely wrong and very much inappropriate indeed. So overall, assuming what Jason Schreier is saying, it's clear that actions were taken against this employee and that this employee was let go. But still, this kind of behavior should not be tolerated in general in industry or in any industry for that matter and all. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about the report about possibility of Concord, flopping? Do you think that a lot of us saw this coming a mile away? Were you surprised this game flopped? Were you not surprised at all? Do you think it's possible Sony could find a way to revive this game, or do you think it's completely dead and everything like that? What are your thoughts about this Nintendo Direct and Indie World, or this double Direct to a certain extent, though? excuse me, did you like this direct in Indie World? Did you not like it at all? Do you think it was a good idea to combine both of them together and everything like that? Do you think the direct was better? Do you think the Indie World was better? And do you think this is that Nintendo wanted to get this out now before they start talking about the Switch successor or Switch 2 for that matter? What are your thoughts about, excuse me, of Crash Bandicoot 5 being canceled, at least according to Activision Blizzard, in favor of doing more live service games and everything like that? Do you think that was definitely a disappointment, indeed? And do you think that now that Microsoft owns Activision Blizzard, do you think this could consider the possibility of reviving Crash Bandicoot 5 or something like that? And do you like the idea of Crash and Spyro teaming up together and everything? And what are your thoughts about this allegation about this fired ex-marathon director and everything like that after these allegation of misconduct towards female employees? Do you think Bungie did the right thing on this though? Do you think this just adds another black eye to Bungie in general? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal me or Patreon or Steam Labs. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!